Hi, Padmaja.
Hello, Bindhu. Hi.
Hi.
So, what are we talking today?
We wanted to talk about parenting.
Parenting. Okay. What about parenting?
Like how parents communicate with children, like conflicts between us, and just how to resolve them.
So, what problems do you have with your parents?
What kid doesn't have a problem with their parents?
What kid doesn't have a problem? Okay, that's a good question. Should there be a conflict?
It comes eventually.
Okay. Why do you think a conflict comes?
It's a difference of opinion. Because the parent has seen the world like this and they know the world. The kid has seen the world like this and they think this is the world.
That itself is the answer.
Yeah.
So, obviously,
Yeah. And why is it like, why does it happen many a times where the kids don't understand how to, how to deal with certain situations? Of course, it's because of the maturity. But even when they have awareness, even when they have, they know that what they're doing is logically very incorrect, but they still go into the same pattern.
okay.
Why does that still happen?
You mean to say, why do kids fall into their own trap?
Trap. And they know it's a trap. Somewhere, you will not,
You're growing up.
no, you will not know that.
Logical reasoning is not completely developed. That means your emotions are highly at play. And when it's emotions don't have logic.
Yeah.
It's just an up and down of your feelings. When you're up, you throw them out. When you're low, you go into your room and you start crying. That's what happens. But your parents have been there. They have seen it. As you said, the parents know the full picture. So obviously they don't want you to be hurt, right? And they want to keep you safe. They want to protect you.
But how do they communicate with us? When they communicate, it always turns out to be a conflict.
Is it because you don't want to understand and you want to be understood first?
No,
See, that's a good point. Think about it. Rather than wanting to be understood, try to understand first.
They have to give it in a way that they have to appeal in a way that we can understand. It's always a conflict, always a fight, always a normal, direct communication. A single word answer, no, for anything.
when there is logic versus emotion, there is a conflict.
Oof. Tough.
Yeah. And in a conversation with a parent, sometimes eventually it does lead into a conflict. Sometimes.
Okay.
Many a times you can have a normal conversation, nothing will happen. And when
So what's your question? Your problem is that your parents say a no?
a problem is that the parent says a no without actually saying a no.
And what do you mean by that?
Or our problem is our parents only say the no, but we don't have an answer to why it is a no.
Okay. So basically what you're trying to understand is, why don't they give you an explanation? Why do they just say a no?
Yes. That's what
See, I'll tell you something. It all starts and ends with the relevance of the situation. Suppose you're about to fall into a ditch there. Your parent is seeing from a distance that there is a ditch or there is a stone, there is something that's going to hurt you. At such situations, you cannot expect them to give you a full explanation, because one, logically they know that you will be hurt. But two, the major important thing is you need to realize that parents are emotional about you. And those emotions come first. They can tell you there is a stone or there is a ditch, be careful. But the fear that comes into their heart, the fear that comes into, the worry that comes into their mind, that takes over anybody's logic. That is where the tone, tonality, and everything just comes. And at that point, stopping you from going there is more important than telling you why not to go there. Same thing happens with you also. When your emotions are at rise, you can also sit down and explain everything to your parents, right? You can tell them, you can communicate with them. But why do you guys go off into your rooms, bang your doors, start complaining to your friends? Why? When you can ask me this question, that means you have a good logic. That means you have a good sense of understanding already. But still, why do you bang your doors?
Because the emotion takes over.
Because the emotion takes over. Isn't that the same for your parents also? Where they've given birth to you, your entire life, they're making. And when they see you going ahead for something which you shouldn't be, obviously it's an emotion, right? Can you take a pause and look at that beyond emotion? Then you will create that time and space for them to explain it to you. What happens is when their emotion is coming out, your emotion is also coming out.
Yeah.
So it's the conflict of emotions. It's not a conflict of logic. They want you to be safe. You want to explore, or you understand the difference there? That is the problem. As much as you are human beings with emotions, parents are also human with emotions. And their emotion is definitely larger there because they know the big picture. So can you cut that slack to the parents at least?
Yeah.
Give them that. And what is more important and what parents would want from you? Trust. When you said that, usually parents know the big picture and kids know only the smaller picture in that.
But they think
it logically, right? But can you trust it with your entire being? That, what? My parents knew it. So if they're not telling it to me now, they will tell me a little later.
You'll definitely not feel that way in that moment.
Exactly. That's because you know your emotions are at play. Isn't that the same right with your parents also? Tell me, in the first place, when there is such a situation coming, do you guys sit down to talk it out or do you guys avoid it?
When we avoid it, it's another conflict. When we sit down and talk, it's like
The conflict is the conflict.
conflict is a conflict.
So when I tend to avoid it many a times because I don't like to argue at all. And when I feel like there's an argument starting to burn up, I immediately shut it off and I go into my room. I just don't want to be there. And that itself becomes another argument saying, see, ippudu le chellipotavu. Right?
Why?
Huh?
Why do you think I ask you to sit down and finish it off?
Because the parents know exactly how to resolve the conflict. And the kid doesn't want to accept that.
Why?
Because the emotions are still at high.
So at least with this awareness that, you're reacting emotionally, at least can you make a first step to kind of trust your parents, saying that, what, there must be a reason why they're saying this. And actually give that time and space for it to actually, come out. Can you do that? Is it practical for you to practice it or no?
Yes, it is.
Yes. Okay.
I have a question. When I say that when I say that I want to avoid the conflict at any cost, does that play into childhood in a way? Like, does it go deeper?
So when you want to avoid a conflict, there must be a reason why you want to avoid it.
Yeah, what is the reason? Why do I want to avoid it?
You tell me, what does conflict feel like for you?
It's gonna go back to this.
Like what? It's okay, tell me now.
Okay, even when I was a child, about what, 4 or 5 years old, and you and my father used to have conflicts, and I used to see that, and I used to get and it got embedded into my mind, and that's the reason I don't, like, at any cost I want to avoid the conflict, and
Maybe that was not too pleasant for you.
it wasn't.
Correct.
And even if I'm arguing with an auto driver for extra 100 rupees, he wants it, and I'm like, no, I won't give it to you. And he keeps, pestering me. The second time he says, nahi chalega bhaiya, and I'm like, sir, just take it and go. I don't even want to have that argument.
It's very nice that you brought out this point here, because first of all, I want you to understand that whatever happens between your parents or whatever happens between two other people where you must have seen a conflict, first of all, understand that it is not your fault. It is nowhere for you. Yes, in the first place, the conflict should not happen in front of a child. But if it has happened, if the situation was like that, first of all, you need to understand that it is not your fault and it is not your mistake. One. The second thing is, you said you were only 4 or 5 when a certain conflict must have happened. Do you know completely why that must have happened there?
It's because of inner child.
Not yours. Why the conflict must have happened? You don't know a full understanding.
No,
right?
yeah.
So when you don't know a full understanding, it is very natural for you to start imagining things in your head.
Yeah.
Yeah? If you really want to solve this, if you really want to learn this for life, go back to the people who must have had that conflict, which has left that kind of an impression on your head. Try to figure out why that must have happened. See, we just spoke about emotions playing at large. So when you do not understand the logic of what must have happened, you have only picked up on the emotion that you went through when that conflict was happening. So, yes, there was a conflict, but you have given your whole new meaning to that conflict. You have given your own opinion to that conflict. You have formed your own belief pattern based on that conflict. Correct?
Yeah.
Is that relevant?
Yeah.
Is that relevant? Does it work?
Well,
You do not
it won't work because, of course, when you're 4 and 5, you have no clue.
Exactly. So when you were 4 and 5, you couldn't pick up more than that. So whatever you gave to your head, to your logic, to your emotion, that must have stuck onto you. Now you have a choice, Rishi. Do you really want to resolve it, or do you want to still carry forward? Because when you are avoiding a conflict just with an auto driver, that simply means you will be avoiding it with everybody.
That's what I meant.
And there is no life without conflicts. There will be conflicts. Right? So if you're letting that where it is not your fault, where it is not your concern, it is not your situation at all, but you're letting something drive you so deep down that you're coming up with something which is actually damaging in a larger aspect. Yeah? So maybe that's something that needs to be resolved. Now, that's not a solution for you to avoid. Why do you avoid?
I usually avoid to just make that conflict go away. Like it all dissolves in some time. But it doesn't get resolved, but it does dissolve in some time.
But doesn't it come back? When something gets dissolved, eventually it might leave a residue there. And someday when you stir it properly, it'll again get murky.
And it obviously becomes a bigger conflict at that time. But for that moment,
It snowballs also. Yeah.
But for that moment, that was important for anyone's mind.
Correct.
So they usually avoid it or ignore it.
Or from now, try one thing. Give it some time. Give it some time. And I think we've come to that point, Rishi. In fact, what we do usually is when there is a conflict that comes up,
We just stop it right there.
quiet for some time. We just keep quiet. He takes his time. I just take my time. He comes back after 5-10 minutes. He comes back after 15 minutes. Where then he says, okay, fine, this was what it was. And then I put across saying that this is what it was. The only reason why this happens is because the emotions are larger than logic when in that moment. Of course, logic is reasoning, but your emotion doesn't have a reason. So I think you just need to let the water settle first and then pick it up. And I think you need to open up that communication with parents. It's very important.
Okay, when a conflict like that resonated with me so much, isn't it because the parents themselves were having conflicts?
Of course.
Yeah, and
We just don't want that to
Yeah.
happen with us too. We're already seeing them fighting or conflicting, having a conflict in this.
and then you've seen the impact it created.
Yes.
Yes, babies, but the point is you do not know the reason there.
That's what I'm saying. So how are we supposed to react?
That was when we were kids, or pretty much like a child, or like just 4 or 5 years old.
Start.
What if it happens when we are teenagers? Like when we can understand like at least 80% of the situation. How does it impact us? Like, do they have that negative impact on the child, which makes us not want to conflict?
See, first thing, what I would definitely say is kids need to be kept away from conflicts. That is something that onus is on the parents. But also, you need to understand that when it is a household, it's practical, and the reality is that everything is there in front of everybody. And we live in Indian households, right? When you live in Indian households, there's so much of drama that happens around. And today, as kids, when you guys are so mature, see, when we were at your age, we did not know half of what all you know now. The exposure was more, the support from parents is more. And you are exposed to a lot of things before time. So as much as we appreciate all of that, when you have the luxury of all these things, I think you should also make space in your head to understand that there must be a reason behind it. It's just taking that moment of your time to understand that, it is between two different people. It's not me. I am not involved. I know it's hard. I know you must be going through so much because nobody likes a household where there's a conflict. But that's a natural process that's there.
And it's also because nobody likes it, it gets attracted more.
See, when you try to resist something, it persists more.
That's what I meant.
It persists more. It comes up more. So maybe what you can do is when the situation settles down, please go back. Go back to your parents, go back to those elders, go back to those people who are conflicting, and just ask them what it is. Try to talk it out. You're all very smart, right? Use it. Try to figure out. And for anything, at least start believing that you're not a part of it.
But for me, I knew I was not a part of it. I knew for a fact that you weren't fighting because of me. And I still got affected. And when people, I watch it, I see it in movies nowadays, when they, they feel like, oh my God, it's all because of me, it's my fault. And I'm like, no, it's not. It's because even though I did go through something similar, I never thought the same way. Why is that I am still affected by it, even though I'm not, I know it's not my fault.
It's something very deep. And since, I've been a part of it, maybe, I apologize for it. I'm sorry that, it has affected you so much. But the point is, You were too young.
Now, my question was like, I knew you just said, don't think that it is your fault. I know it wasn't. I knew it was my fault.
Yeah, but still it has affected you.
Yeah.
That's because you have seen something which is not pleasant. When you keep the entire house very clean and there's a dump of garbage which is not taken out. Yes, you've kept the entire house clean, but garbage stinks.
Yeah.
You can't say that, all this is, wow, lovely fragrance. So I do not, I cannot smell this. No, you will smell it. You will smell it. So when there is something like that, it is bound to come into your conscious awareness. That's it. But after that, yes, you were affected and everything. This, we're talking about something 10 years ago. Yeah?
Yeah.
After that, how has it been for you through the journey?
That was very necessary for my life. Because if any of that didn't happen, we would not be sitting like this right now. If, again, everything happens for a reason. And all that was needed for me.
One thing I'll tell you, Rishi, life is not obligated to give us what we want. And definitely, life is not about what happens to you. I think it is always about how you respond to what happens to you. And whatever that you just said, that yes, you were affected, yes, all of that happened, but you have been able to understand the fact that maybe today you're objective like this, you're mature like this, maybe, you've learned things like this because of that. And when you're acknowledging it, when you're appreciating that fact, I think this is what defines who you are. So I don't think you're carrying that baggage, and you should not be also. Because after that, there is so much that we've done. Today you are this, you are who you are. But yes, certain points, in fact, as you tell me, when you come back from your superhero movies and when you tell me, Amma, that was a canon event or something like that.
Are you going to cut that part, please? You're seriously going to cut that
Maybe, yeah, it was one such canon event.
Please cut this, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, it's meant to happen, right? But I always keep imagining what if certain aspects of them did not happen.
It would have happened in a different way.
No, this tiniest thing, if it was changed.
It's wishful thinking.
No, it's not wishful thinking. That is dreadful thinking. Because if the tiniest thing had changed, we wouldn't have this relationship. And you wouldn't make this space. You wouldn't be recording this right now. The tiniest thing, if it was changed.
Maybe that's why it's called a canon event.
Yeah.
Rishi, superheroes are born out of adversities. If everything was comfortable, why would people look at something beyond? So when some adversity hits, it's not because of helplessness. It's because you're making a choice of how you want to live. Now, as simple as the same situation that you said, you were 4, you were 5, you spoke about the conflict between me and your father, yes. But the point is, maybe I had a choice. Maybe I could remain in the same relationship. Maybe I could remain in the same family structure where it was hurtful every day. Where it is, you're living something which you cannot live for a long time. There are so many people who are living like that.
Yeah.
Because they don't want to break a family. They don't want to, keep a child away from the father or something like that. I agree. But that's a choice that we need to make. Are you okay to live in the so-called
ideal
structure? Family structure, ideal structure, dying every moment.
Wow, okay.
Or It's okay. It's okay if you're seen not to be normal, but still you make a life that is worth living. And I made my choice. And from that day, I made sure I worked extra hard so that things get normal for you.
Definitely paid off.
Yeah. I mean, imagine. So at that point, Rishi, my family told me, my friends told me, maybe, you shouldn't be taking this step. But I had only two paths in front of me. Do I live in the same structure, showing my son somebody who's not right? Showing my son somebody where I cannot see him, turn out to be being something like that? Or take a different path, but show my son how a life can be lived, how a life should be lived.
The only reason the
And I
conflict...
think, Rishi, we didn't intend this conversation to be like this, but it has come to that point, and I think it's important we address it. So these two choices, I have made my choice. Now you have full right, because if you ask me, I think I'm answerable only to you in my entire life. And today, when you're sitting here with awareness, I'm asking you, how has it panned out for you?
That's a question, mommy.
It is a question. It is a question.
How has it panned out for me? Let's play this out, okay? If you had made the choice of staying, the only reason you made the choice is because it was easier. If you did, yeah.
Right? Yes.
Now imagine the life over there. When I grow up, I wouldn't have had this maturity first thing. Okay. That's the first thing. And when I will eventually have that maturity, slower and slower, very much later on, and then I see the true colors of that marriage, imagine how much I would have hated you.
I don't know, you should tell me. I thought about all of that.
Oh,
Obviously, right?
just imagine how much I would have hated you to the core to make that choice, because at that moment you had the choice. It's because you made that choice, you're here right now.
In another way, I made that choice, Rishi, because society is not so helpful, or it's not so giving.
Open.
Yeah, open for you to take the choices. That is where I had to stand up. I had to fight. I had to live in a way. It didn't matter what others thought of it. What mattered was what is important and what is helpful for my child in the long run. As I said, because I'm answerable only to him. So I think the whole context came on to single parenting or something like that. But then, yeah, I think maybe it's important for us to address this.
There's the happy ending to it, but there's also a very bad, there could have been a very bad choice as well. And what I want to know is, when a couple is ideal, like perfect in the sense, they still have conflicts, but they're very loving, they have a child, that child, would he or she have the same, what do you call it, the maturity, I guess, I don't know the word for it. Would he or she have the same awareness towards, of what I have read? But
why not? See, it all depends on how open the communication is. How open the communication is. It's not about a single child of a single parent becoming more mature. No, it's not that. It's about how open is the communication between the parent and the child, and how accommodating of each other that they are.
how was it like for you, Bindhu?
Pretty tough, as I can say, because I have faced these issues, but it was not completely separated or completely like a complete separation from everything. So I was given my space, but it was always a conflict at home. Like it was always there that I could see that until like now, because I'm a little more aware or a little more matured, so I can understand. Like let them be what they want to do. I have no interaction with what they are fighting against. So it's a little bit changed. Like the opinion has changed, but the thought has been always there. That the negative thought of like what was happening was always been there. So now my parents are not like they're not separated, but they still have fights. So how can a single child who's like having a divorced parent or a single parent cope up with that in this today's society, having a negative impression, which might be a positive effect in the family, but a negative impression in the society?
Tell me one thing, both of you. Have you made friends in life?
Yes.
Have you had those friends who are your closest?
Yeah.
But eventually, you guys fell apart.
Yeah.
How do you deal with it? How do you deal with it? Do other friends around this, do they get affected by this?
Yeah. In the same circle, yes.
Are your parents sad for you? Because, you've had such a good friend and you've lost?
Yes.
Yes? It's the same. It's the same. No two people start a life thinking that they're going to fight tomorrow. But what happens in a relationship, it's something which is beyond your control and it's beyond anybody's comprehension. Because times change, people grow, people evolve. And when two people grow or two people evolve over a period of time, there is no guarantee that they need to evolve in the same direction, to the same extent, in the same pace. So when there is deviation, yes, this happens. Because your fallout has been with a friend, you don't come back to the same house. Though there is an environment that is getting affected, it is not that impactful because you can just move on. It's the same. But in this context, yes, there is a family because you come back home and you've created another life together there. That is where children come in. That's the only reason why this kind of a scenario happens. Now, what as these children that you need to understand is one major thing which I'll keep repeating, it's not your fault. It's not your fault. But yes, you are there. Yes, you will be impacted. There will be an effect. All that you can do is look at it as a spoiled friendship of somebody. When you see two friends fighting and you're friends with both of them, what do?
Okay, but
You tend to create a space for both of them, right?
yeah.
So I think as children, all that you can do is only that much. And maybe, yes, as parents, we need to keep it in a sense where we protect your best interests in that. And I'm sure no parent will want to hurt their children. But it happens. Shit happens. It's life. And you guys need to understand it the right way. You were asking me something.
Yeah, I just had a thought. Now, watching this, there are two sides of the coin again. There's one side which says, oh my God, she's so open with her child, and wow, that's so inspiring, and that's people who get positively influenced. And the other side of the coin is, oh my God, she's so open with her child that can never happen at all. That should not happen at all.
That's always going to be the...
Yeah, but that...
A coin will...
Would that not affect the parent? Okay, let's say it's not you.
Are you...
Yeah, it's you. But, if...
See, if it would affect me, I wouldn't be doing this at all.
Yeah.
If what mattered to me was how people are perceiving me, I wouldn't be doing this. But what is more important to me? What children of these families go through, what you are going through, that is more important to me. Yeah. And if somebody can understand that, oh my God, yeah, this is common, it's okay, it's okay. Sometimes things work, sometimes things don't work. That doesn't mean a life stops. That is more important. But if you start trying to please people, to what extent will you, go on? At the end of the day, your life is in your vicinity. How are you keeping things there? That's it. That's what matters. So what do you do when conflicts do come? What do you usually do when you get into a situation where you might have to argue or fight?
The main approach that, well, I personally take, I do my best to avoid it. But that itself creates a conflict for itself, that you're not even talking about it. So there's no escape from that.
Is that because I believe in resolving conflicts and I make sure you speak?
Yeah, and I believe in running away.
It's the same with all the parents.
What?
They try to make us understand, but we try to ignore it.
Okay. Why do you want to run away, Rishi? And why do you want to ignore?
That again goes into inner child. And I have seen you and my father having conflicts, right? And that resonated with me and it embedded into me. And I want to do anything but that. Even if I'm arguing with an auto driver for a 50 rupee change, I will give him extra 50 rupees if the conflict stops.
Interesting.
I will give him, because you know how frustrated I am with them, right? And how pricey they become. That's why I don't even bargain. I'm like, you take it, you go. I don't want to talk to you.
Okay.
I will avoid a conflict at any cost. If that will give me an assurance that I don't have to go into that zone of myself, that when I start arguing, I won't stop. That's also another thing.
Okay. What do you do?
And I feel like ignoring is the best way, because when I put forward my opinion, it's either conflicting or it's like getting into a bigger fight. So if we stop it over there, then it resolves on its own.
But are you both happy by ignoring it or by brushing it aside?
When you sweep things under a rug too much, the rug becomes lumpy.
Correct.
And when that happens, it'll inevitably, when you still try to walk on the same rug, those problems will inevitably come out and make you argue again.
Okay, wait. Let's take it one at a time. First, you're saying that parents want to resolve it right then and there. And as kids, you're trying to ignore it or just put it aside for a while.
They want to resolve it, but we want to avoid the conversation of conflicting, avoid the conversation with a fight.
So what do you feel when you avoid a conflict? How would you feel?
It's happy that the conflict is over, but sometimes it's like a defensive or rebellious inside me that wants me to be correct. As a child, I want it to be right, but it doesn't happen.
And somewhere are you saying that maybe there's a fear that if you start opening up, you'll have to accept that somewhere you might be wrong.
You'll be wrong, yeah.
Yes.
And that's what you're trying to avoid?
Yeah.
For how long will you guys go on like that?
Until teenage is over.
We don't know that.
Yeah.
See, the reason parents...
Let me ask you this question. Has it ever happened that you tried to avoid something, you didn't tell your parents, or you tried to brush it aside, but then the problem actually came up where you had to resolve it and you had to go and tell them?
Of course.
Yeah? Yeah. So don't you think from the point one to this point, the problem would have actually snowballed into a bigger...
Yes.
Yes.
So the answer is within you. You are telling me.
Yes, but we are still kids to not realize it.
You are realizing it. You are sharing it now.
Because we have fallen and we have gotten up from it.
Okay. So now what do you think is best?
Before I answer that, the reason that parents want to resolve a conflict as much as possible is because they know the solution already.
Yes.
See, if the conflict is something like, I wanted to go to a movie, you didn't let me, we would fight a lot. But it's because it'll spoil my head that the parent wouldn't want me to go. The solution is right there.
But that isn't expressed.
Yeah.
They just put forward a proper
And it's just
order.
a no. Like
Yeah.
that no thing will make us want to do it. Like anything, negative, like don't do this, all you're hearing is do this. Because in psychology also, when the mind is trained to have only positive intentions, so the don't gets cancelled out to do.
No, that I understand. So are you telling me that if your parents gave you a more explanation about why you shouldn't be doing it, you'll be more willing to listen to it?
Yes, before they directly say a no, they try starting from an explanation to what it was, then probably it might not work for every child, but it can work for almost everyone.
More than an explanation.
I have also seen the other cases where a parent is, if they're trying to explain, it's as if, you guys think that we are just giving you gyan.
More than an explanation, we need to understand the consequence first.
They have to make us understand the consequence rather than just telling a no. We know it, so you should not do it. That is like not inculcated in our brains.
Okay. So taking the same example, when you want to go for a movie, maybe when you have your exams coming up, when it's actually not relevant, it's but obvious, right?
Yeah, but for me, exams aren't my best friends.
Okay.
Movies are my best friends. So I tend to go to that anyways.
Okay.
And it's different for everybody, right?
See, as long as the world exists and as long as people exist, because as much as your emotions and your truth is relevant to you, your truth is also relevant to you. We might agree on a lot of things, and there will be so many things that we will disagree upon also.
And even with...
And we live in a society with people, right? We're not living in isolation. So that means there will be opinions. That means there will be conflicts. Now the choice is, can you resolve those? And if you're not able to resolve those, at least have the grace enough to rise above those conflicts and make a life. Or if you really want to just be stuck in that, conflicts exist, my life is gone, complaining, cribbing, blaming. See, it's very easy to blame in the situation of a conflict. But being wise is about understanding where the conflict is. Can you resolve it or not? If you can resolve it, please do. If you cannot resolve it, what's the other choice?
Rise above it.
That's all. Because you're all living, this is one life. And the quality of how you live your life is more important.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So hold on. And as much as possible, try to look at things beyond what they just seem on the surface. There's so much more deep down.
Yeah.
So I think you need to take a full picture to understand a lot of things. Thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.